Andrew Loomis's book. Um, he talks a little bit about the structure of a child, but mostly all of his, Andrew Loomis's, male and female, they're all beauty queens. They're all really beautiful, beautiful people, and that's not exactly what I want. I want a cute girl, but um, and I've sketched those a little bit in the last couple of days. But what I found most helpful is that right under my own roof is my granddaughter Lake, who's 5.5, and so that's pretty close. If I just age her a little bit, which I don't think I'll have any trouble doing, take out a tooth or two, I can take lots of pictures of my own granddaughter. She's very excited about this project, by the way, and have plenty of models, at least for this girl at a young age. So let me show you a little bit. Oh, and then finally, I'm going to do the final illustration in pen and ink. And one of you, forgive me, I forget who now, one of my viewers, regular viewers, asked for a little bit more information about the process of illustration. I'm not going to answer all of his questions, but here are some of them. Who decided the technique? The answer is I did. I told my client for an inexpensive black and white book, pen and ink is the way to go, because a halftone photograph will look like newsprint. It will not be a satisfactory product. It better than newsprint, but not enough better to make the difference. In pen and ink, what you get, what you see is what you get. So we do our own halftone. Now, I don't want to do my traditional pen and ink on this girl because my traditional is very, very straight lines and fairly rigid, which is great for technical things. I feel like it's too soft. It's too hard a technique for a little girl's face. So I've looked at some things online. These two are Rembrandt. This is some other classic artist, and this is, I don't know who, I just found that online. I'm looking at those a little bit. So let me show you again what I've done so far. I'm working on tracing paper. Here's why. Here's some of the real quick sketches that I've done of my granddaughter Lake. And I'll do some of these while you're watching it in just a few minutes. But the advantage of tracing paper is that you can sketch here and then turn it over and you can see the drawing. So it's a mirror image, and you can make corrections on this side, and then if you want to, go back and make yet even more corrections on this side. So that's why I'm working on tracing paper. Here's a sketch that I did just a few minutes ago from my phone, my other phone, and I will show you right now how I am working. And I do expect and want this to be educational, informative for you, my fellow artists. I'm using a really fun new tool. Anything would work. You know, the pencils I use for painting would work, except that they don't erase very well. So this is graphite. It's a graphite pencil lead holder, kind of fancy, and pretty thick lead, and so that's nice. That helps for keeping the image fat and bold. Yes, Barbara, she is. They are all cuties. Believe me. I know you do believe me. Everybody knows all their grandchildren are the cutest in the world. So I draw, first of all, this. I took this picture of her when she wasn't looking, which is pretty important for children. Most children do not know how to pose. As soon as they start posing for a camera, their position goes all kerwonky. So she didn't know I was taking her picture. She's looking at a phone. The girl in our story most certainly does not have a phone, but she may be looking at something else in her hand. So a couple things. One is very, very standard. Looks like a Staedtler lead holder. Is it all the trend, Patrick? I didn't know that. It is. It's a knockoff. It's Creative Mark, which is Jerry's Artorama owned brand. So yes, probably a knockoff. I didn't know it was all the rage. That's fun. I got this as a gift at Christmas from Jerry's Artorama. I calculated, I discovered a couple years ago when I was doing my taxes, I spend an average of $100 a week. So add it up. I spend an average of $100 a week at Jerry's Artorama. And and then I joked about to them for a long time. That's why they like me. That's why they're so. That's why they're always so happy to see me come through the door. Ka-ching, ka-ching. Oh, they contend that it's more than that. No, that they really like me. I'm a nice guy. They try to tell me that, but ka-ching, ka-ching. Anyway, I was actually a little bit amazed that it was I spent $5,000 at this local store. Anyway, so they gave me a Christmas present, and actually several other things. They gave me a gift basket. It was really, really sweet of them. And by the way, yes, I appreciated the gesture very much. Okay, so you'll notice how I am holding, and again, if you've been one of my drawing students, you wonder, does he really hold the pencil that way when nobody's looking? The answer is absolutely yes, I do. Now, my drawing's not so good here. I need to pull this leg in. Okay, why do I hold? I remember in college, I remember my professors, one of the few good bits of information I did get in college. I remember professors saying to hold, in our drawing classes, in our figure drawing classes, so on, they would insist that we hold the pencil side saddle, what I call side saddle. But I don't remember them ever explaining why. So I'm going to explain to you why. It's not just because I said so. It's not just because all the professors say so. My best understanding is this, that when you hold the drawing utensil, be it a pencil or a brush, when you hold it this side saddle way, you are eliminating the digits. See, when you draw this way, which I'll be doing in just a minute, by the way. Oops, I'm sorry, I'm off camera. When you draw this way, what's moving? What part of my anatomy is doing the work? The answer is my fingers, my digits, fingers. When you hold it this way, what part of my anatomy is doing the work? You can't see but you know exactly what it is. It's my whole arm, from the shoulder on down. And here's what I have discovered, is that the part of your anatomy, the part of your brain that controls your arm is a better artist than the part of your brain that controls your fingers. Now, I would really like some true neuroscientist to help me prove this out. But here's why I believe that's true, is because when you hold a drawing utensil in this manner, again, look what's moving, it's my fingers. And exactly, Patrick. And when you hold it in this way, let me expand a little bit. You are, through your neural pathways, you are hardwired, you are locking in to the control freak center of your brain. As children, we learned how to make letters. We learned it was hard. We learned how to make letters this way. So most of us went straight from making letters to drawing. So this is the control center of our brain. And all I have to prove is that control freakishness is not the best way to draw. In order to draw well, you need freedom, even flexibility, openness, spontaneity, words like that. And so just turn your pen around. So a couple things. This grip does not work well when the drawing plane is pointed at the ceiling. Even this, as you can see, this is already tipped up a little bit, but it's not tipped up far enough. Therefore, I could use a clipboard, which I call the world's cheapest easel, especially a legal-sized clipboard in your lap works fine. This is a little bit fancy version, just an extra large clipboard, essentially. And it points it at my nose, and now this grip works well. Now, here's what I want you to understand. Once the real drawing is finished, then yes, you can do details. So for details, you switch around to the traditional grip, because what I call, and you could say the sketching phase, you could call it the sketching phase, and that would be true. But it really is more than that. It really is the actual or the authentic drawing phase is done with this grip. What I'm doing right now is basically two things: details and shadows, details and shading. And this grip works perfectly fine for that. Now, if you'll bear with me for just a minute, again, I want to show you the benefit of, now the girl in my book is going to have freckles, so I'm going to add freckles to this girl, and I'm going to put hair. There's always going to be at least one major stray hair hanging down in front of her face. Now let's work on this hand here. So again, of course, just the way I do when I paint, I am making edits to my drawing. Now, I'm not slavishly obeying my earlier lines. I'm assuming that makes complete sense to you. There's no point in continuing to just draw, copying, tracing over the same lines that you made a minute ago. No, you make corrections. So I am, in that regard, I am indeed drawing, if you will, with this Control Freak grip. But the marks that I'm making now are very limited to a very narrow range. They're small marks, as opposed to what I was doing just a few minutes ago when I was doing large marks. Whoops, you know what? I've got this sleeve down way too far. But I'm not going to fix it right now because I want to demonstrate something with you guys for just a minute, in just a minute. So two principles are being modeled for me right here. One is, how does an artist get good at realism? The answer is you draw, you sketch. Not to be confused with painting. Yeah, if you draw in your painting, as I do, then painting works. But many people, they're all fired up about painting, and for some reason I don't understand, some are not as fired up about drawing, but their paintings are pretty bad. Thank you, Artist Ross. Their paintings, 90% of the mistakes that my painting students make in their painting, and probably 95, are drawing mistakes. The reason my students aren't very good, typically painters, has nothing to do with paint. Well, it does, but anyway, never mind. The main reason, the main things they're struggling with are drawing issues. And the way to get better at drawing is to do exactly what I'm doing here, which is look at stuff and draw it. And draw it quickly. Don't create masterpieces. The devil is not in the details. When it comes to art, the devil is not in the details, so to speak. Quote unquote, the devil is in the big shapes. Whoops, her forehead is too small. Okay, I don't know if I'm going to do any shading or not. I guess a little bit. But again, here's what I want to show you. A couple of things. Now, I'm going to turn this paper upside down. And look what happens. Oh my goodness. It's like, and this is comparable to looking at an image in the mirror. Now, because of my phone, I'm assuming you all know this. Oh, I haven't downloaded this yet. Sorry, let me download. Save to device. Okay, so I'm going to get it in my gallery. So I do want to show you, anybody that's got a smartphone can do this. This is not hard. This is not rocket science. Oh, and where is my image? Okay, if I get stuck here, sometimes getting things from Google Photo to one's phone is a little challenging. Yep, thanks, Barbara. Barbara's alluding to, I've said often, if I could control a student, so to speak, sorry, hang on here, I'm going to email it to myself. I would have my students not paint for a year, but draw for a year. So instead of doing, I'm going to say that if you're a student, you might do 50 paintings in a year, and I think I'm probably being generous, that most students do not do 50 paintings a year, but let's be generous and say that you do. Instead of, if you want to be a much better painter at the end of 1 year, don't do any paintings. Instead, take the time that you would have used to do 50 or fewer paintings, and instead do 2,000 drawings, because you can do a drawing in 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and so forth. Does that make sense? And at the end of 1 year, the person who did 50 paintings and the person who did 3,000 drawings, the drawer would be a much better artist, much better painter. Okay, so I think now I'm in I've got the image on my phone. So watch this. Let's edit it. Transform. And I know your phone might be slightly different from mine. Flip horizontal. Yes. Check. Save. So now I have this same image flopped. In fact, the number of changes that I want to make in this are so significant that I'm going to go back to my drawing grip. Does that make sense? If I was really close, if I felt like I was really close with this drawing, I would proceed with my drawing grip, my control grip. But I don't feel like I'm even quite close enough to warrant that. So I'm going to go back to my rough sketch grip. I know my terminology gets a little bit, sometimes I call this a sketching grip, but just a few minutes I guess I said, no, it really is your real drawing grip. So if I proceed along these lines, then I will turn the page over again. Let me try to do this really, really quickly to be an example to you, not spend so much time trying to do a good drawing. So I'm just going to try to knock it out really quickly just so I can demonstrate what it is I'm talking about. We see these fingers a little bit better. Aren't those just perfect little girl fingers? And I mean, every little girl has perfect little girl fingers. But you and I probably, unless you're a full-time professional, either children illustrator or child portrait painter, you probably don't know, like I don't know exactly know. What do little girls' fingers look like again? I do not. I have to look. So that's why I'm doing this. And again, to use some other terminology, if you've taken my drawing class, I'm replacing my SOS file, my survival oriented symbol file, or my SSSOS, which is super simple survival oriented symbol file, which is what our brain stores to help us navigate through life safely. I'm replacing that with a reference file. So, okay, so let me grab, and by the way, this is for this particular job, this is the kit that I put together. So I don't have to run all over the place and, say, no, where's that pen, where's that pencil, where's that eraser? I've got it all right here in my hand. So now I'm erasing the first drawing that I did. Got it? And by the way, for many years ago, I was, ironically, most of you don't know this, I was fairly well known around the country as a cartoonist. So much so that most of you, if you were alive in the 80s and early 90s, you saw one of my cartoons. I don't mean like a cartoon strip. No. I mean like commercial cartoon in an ad or something. Not all, by no means, but I would think it would be a pretty generous percentage of people in America saw my cartoons. So that's drawing number 2. Now let me go back to my photograph. And the drawing number 2 is slightly more accurate than drawing number 1. Here I have on my phone the flopped image and the original. See, flopped, original, flopped original. So I'm back to original, and I could draw it yet a third time if I feel, but I feel like I'm close enough now that I am going to use my control grip, and I could again redraw the entire thing. Typical girl, right? Typical typical girl of her age holding a smartphone. Well, before we go, I'll do one more thing, because I'll just to demonstrate again this process. By the way, my client called me today and asked me if I had any illustrations for him to look at. I felt bad that I misled him. I said, no, I'm still in the development stage. I need to get to the point where this particular little girl falls off the end of my pen every time, sort of relatively perfectly. And I am not at that point yet. I expect to have to do roughly 100 little girls. I've already done 20 or 25, so I'm down the road. It doesn't really take that. They don't have to be done to this degree. In fact, technically, I could call this either 1 or 2 sketches, because this is now the third time that I'm drawing this girl. So with every sketch, my brain, my reference file, my internal reference file is getting a little more refined, a little more complete, so that after a while, I'll be able to draw a girl like this from memory. Okay? The drawings are going to be done in pen and ink, and I am finding, by the way, that I really like the symbiotic interaction between this brand of pen, and I tried several, and the tracing paper. So I wouldn't be surprised if I actually end up doing the final sketches on tracing paper with this kind of pen. Now here's one of the things I'm not sure about yet. What I'm doing right here is very typical of my style of cross-hatching. Am I zoomed all the way in? Thank you for your comments from Russia. I'll try to get those translated later so I can figure out what you're saying. My guess is when I'm done, I'm going to be doing a combination of my traditional cross-hatching and a looser style. For instance, I think I'm going to do her hair like that. Now, I sort of semi-jokingly, I call this, what I just did right there, I call this scribble hatching. It's a messy form of cross-hatching. The difference is my pen is drawing on both strokes, going both directions. And it's a more scribbly and messy. Also, I'll be doing extraneous marks like this, especially around her hair, but even around her anatomy, sometimes to indicate movement, sometimes to indicate tension of one kind or another in the story, depending on what's happening in the scene. There would be less of that in a very calm setting, and more of that kind of stuff in a more tense moment in the story. And that's probably, I've showed you enough here. And I'm playing around with the lines like, nah, I don't like that. What I just did, I don't like very much. But I want some shading going the other way. I want some cross hatching, so that I can get a darker value. And again, I'm not sure how I'm going to do that. See, that doesn't look good. So I've just ruined the drawing. That's okay. That's what this is for. See, that looks really bad, but it's an experiment. I like my treatment of the line, by the way. I like the way I do the outline. There's not much, that's a very native style of mine, comes naturally to me from years of drawing. Again, sort of a little bit of a nervous line. not a tight, rigid line.
In 5 minutes, we're gonna eat.
Okie dokie, thanks, buddy. Well, I'll finish this drawing since I'm almost done. I just got called for supper, by the way.
What are you drawing?
And I am drawing Lakey Poo, except that I give you freckles. Because the girl in the book is going to have freckles. Here, let me back up this. So there's Lake, everybody. You want to say hi at the camera? Do you know where the camera is, Lake? It's up here. No.
Hi.
So I'm going to draw a whole bunch of pictures of Lakey Poo. Oh, and the girl in the book never wears shoes. So I'm going to have Lakey take her shoes off so I can take pictures of her.
Oh.
Not right now. I'll do it later. After supper, okay? But there's that kind of looks like you, except I was playing around with your face and messed it up. You're a lot cuter than that. What do you think?
Like it.
Is that fun?
But my other shoe.
Oh yeah, okay, there we go. Let's do your other shoe.
I think you need to color me in or something.
Well, in this book, there's not going to be any color. Here's some of the ones and it's going to look more like this, just black and white with lines.
I like that.
Is
that Lake?
No, that's not Lake. That was a girl. I don't think it's Lake. It's a girl out of the internet. Yeah, these are not like. Do you like that style? So it's going to be more like this. But,
why in the world did you did that?
Yeah, she's crying there, because in this story, a lot of sad things happen to the girl.
Like what?
Oh, well, she has to move out of her home. Okay, time for supper. Let's go.